Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more.
Nicholas, 19, struggles with frustration, feeling adrift in his teenage years. He blends into the background, standing at 5 feet 6 inches and weighing 130 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. Average in academics, he avoids sports and clubs, preferring solitude. Concerned as his mother, I struggle to understand his shyness, especially after losing my husband Henry and daughter Julia in a tragic accident. Nicholas withdraws further into himself, defying my attempts to reach him. It's only when I stumble upon pages he printed from the internet that I grasp the depth of his struggle. With newfound understanding, I turn to my brother Max for support, hoping he can step in as a surrogate uncle for Nicholas. I'm Grace Anderson, 35, Nicholas's mother. Growing up, I witnessed people embracing their true selves, including a high school classmate who transitioned into a woman. Seeking guidance, I reached out to her on Friday. She suggested confronting the issue with Nicholas, even offering to help him experience being a girl, perhaps just for a weekend. Jill's advice aligned with my own thoughts, prompting me to take action while Nicholas was at school. I'm Nicholas, and since I can remember, I've felt an insatiable desire, like an unscratchable itch, to live as a girl. Entering high school, I resolved to pursue this longing. Coincidentally, around the same time, my mother started taking estrogen tablets. Intrigued by the potential effects, I began taking one of her pills daily at 18. Progress was slow at first, but after nearly a year, changes began to manifest rapidly. By the middle of the second term, I sported a modest yet noticeable chest, wider hips, and smooth, hairless skin. Unable to conceal my transforming body, I resorted to baggy clothes. One Friday, after school, my mother confronted me in my room, acknowledging she understood what was troubling me. She told me directly that she knew about my fantasy to become a girl. Then she asked me to strip so she could help me become the girl of my dreams. Pleading with her did no good at all, my denials falling flat when she held up some papers on my desk. I knew that denying it was no longer possible. My biggest fear was what she would say when she saw my chest. When my jeans hit the floor, it was obvious that I had panties on, but Mom said nothing. In fact, she didn't do anything at all. Then she made a twirly motion with her hand, and I reluctantly removed my shirt. For the first time, I displayed my chest to someone else. They were very nicely pert and firm, full with the roundness of youth, at least a fuller cup, and obviously, they did not belong on the chest of a 19-year-old boy. It was also obvious that I had a narrower waist, my panties fitting me more like they would a normal female. I heard her quickly draw in a breath. I want to tell me about this, Nicholas. I sank onto the bed, baring my soul to her without reservation. Exhausted and overwhelmed, I finally crumpled into her embrace, consumed by shame, humiliation, and fear of her reaction. When I learned about your struggles the other day, I was considering helping you explore being a girl for the weekend. Looks like we'll need to shop for the right undergarments now. You've grown enough to require a bra full time, and we'll need to pick out several outfits too. I understood her logic, though the idea of wearing a bra constantly sent a shiver of fear down my spine. When I questioned her reasoning with a simple why, she simply stated it was inevitable given my current chest development and figure. With the way you're developing, it's time to wear a bra all the time, and you know it. Her words sent a chill through me, compounded by the thought of donning feminine attire, even in front of my mother. I picked up a few items for you today. If you're ready, I'll assist you in changing. I silently agreed, following her instructions to shower, wash my hair, and shave meticulously. I returned, clad only in a towel wrapped around my waist. After drying off, under Mom's direction, I powdered up, followed her to her room, and sat at the vanity while she put over a dozen rollers in my hair using a setting gel, and then did my makeup. I watched her as she used the subtle colors that I liked, a soft mint green and plum, with deep black eyeliner and mascara, and a soft coral blusher. I slipped on the new bra she had bought, which turned out to be the right size, and teasing her, I fluffed my chest to make it look fuller. None of that, young lady. Grinning, I sat on the bed and pulled on the pantyhose. Mom handed me a blouse, then the skirt, and had me step into the new shoes she handed me. I looked in the mirror and saw her for the very first time, not in my dreams, but in the flesh. My shoulders were accented by the ruffled sleeves of the blouse. The collar was white with lace trim that accented the pink and white design of the blouse. It was a simple round neck collar, which I buttoned up easily. Mom had guessed my measurements pretty well. The skirt was a light pink that seemed to cling to my waist, accentuating the shape of my hips, and then stopped about 2 inches above my knees. With the short, white heels on, I saw that I had nicely shaped legs which made me smile. "We're not done yet, Nicholas. Come sit down." Mom removed the rollers and skillfully styled my hair, giving it a distinctly feminine look. I sported a voluminous top with cascading curls at the back and side-swept bangs. She adorned me with a delicate locket on a nearly invisible gold chain and button earrings to match. A hint of perfume graced my wrists, completing the transformation. Mom scrutinized me with a careful gaze, and then I received the unmistakable look. It's the look every mother gives when their daughter is about to embark on her first real date. She examined me slowly before addressing me. "Well, I must say, you look more than just presentable, Nicholas. You look very handsome. Let's have a chat on the patio." We poured some iced tea and settled at the shaded table. "How long have you been taking my pills?" "Since I turned 18, I suppose." "Well, based on what I've read, your chest is likely to remain, and stopping the pills might even lead to further growth. I'll schedule a doctor's appointment for you, but if I'm correct, I don't see how you can continue living as a boy, do you?" "I've managed so far, Mother." "True, but if your bust and hips continue to expand, hiding your figure will become impossible. Have you considered any of this?" Shaking my head, I confessed that I never anticipated such significant and rapid changes in my body. Mom paused, studying me for a moment before suggesting a name for the girl I resembled. "I haven't really thought about it, Mom. How about Catherine? It would have been your name if you were born a girl. Catherine Marie Anderson has a nice ring to it, and it's quite different from Nicholas." "Okay, Mom. I like Catherine. Now we just need to decide how we'll inform Uncle Max and grandparents," Mom remarked. I was about to retreat to my room to change, but Mom insisted otherwise. "I think it's time for you to face the world. While the clothes I bought are a good start and fit you well enough, you'll need more outfits and certainly more underwear. Stay dressed for now. I'll call your granduncle Max, and we'll break the news together." It wasn't what I preferred, but she didn't ask for my opinion. Just then, Uncle Max appeared, spotting us on the patio. He approached with a smile. After settling in, he inquired if my attire was related to something happening at school. Mom looked at me, silently urging me to speak up. Gathering my courage, I took a deep breath and sunk a little deeper into my chair. "No, Uncle Max, it's not school-related," I replied. Knowing my lack of involvement in church activities or clubs, Uncle Max processed the situation. "So, you did this by yourself?" Mom shot me a glance, prompting me to reveal the truth. "Uncle Max, I've always felt this way. This is who I truly am." His expression shifted, his eyes narrowing and mouth downturned. Then, he turned to Mom, accusing her. "You're responsible for this. Is this some kind of joke?" "No, Max, it's not a joke. Kathy started taking my estrogen pills without informing anyone, and she developed a body typical of a girl her age. In fact, except for one aspect, she bears a striking resemblance to your sister Mary at the same age," Mom explained. Uncle Max's face flushed with anger, demanding that I see a doctor. I had already planned on that, but for now, we all need to learn to accept Kathy just as she is, Mom replied calmly. Uncle Max remained furious, directing his anger at Mom and me, still convinced it was all some kind of prank. That evening, I was instructed to remain as Kathy until bedtime. Despite feeling out of place around Uncle Max, There was nothing he could do about it, which left me feeling on edge. The following day, I stayed home from school. Mom helped me into the same skirt and blouse, assisting with my hair while I did my own makeup. After breakfast, we visited the family doctor. Stepping out of the house, I knew someone would be deeply unhappy, perhaps even me, regardless of what the doctor said. Despite the short drive, nerves consumed me, prompting Mom to support me as we entered the doctor's office. To my surprise, the nurse, who had known me since birth, didn't recognize me at all. "We need to see Dr. Evelyn." "I apologize for not having an appointment, but it's urgent," Mom stated. "Is this for you or?" Dr. Evelyn started to ask. Mom interrupted, "Kathy needs to see him." Thankfully, since they had just opened, we were ushered into the examination room within 10 minutes. Dr. Benson, who had delivered me at birth, now found me sitting on his table, my knees pressed tightly together in an attempt to stop the shaking. "Who do we have here?" Dr. Benson inquired. "This is Nicholas, doctor. He started taking my estrogen pills almost a year ago, and it was only yesterday that I noticed the changes the pills had caused, prompting me to have him dress accordingly. Now we need your guidance," Mom explained. Dr. Benson simply observed me before informing Mom that he would conduct a complete physical and blood workup. The examination lasted nearly an hour and was the most thorough I'd ever experienced. Before Mom returned to the room, Dr. Benson asked me several questions, to which I responded truthfully. "Well, we're facing quite a dilemma here. Let me go get your mother," he concluded. He didn't mince words in expressing his frustration with me, but he patiently explained the situation once Mom returned. "Except for the primary male organ, what we have here is a fully developed girl, approximately 18 or 19 years old," Dr. Evelyn explained. Because she began hormone therapy at such a young age, her voice remained unchanged, and she experienced the onset of a typical female puberty. "I can't find any significant health concerns, but there are some other matters I need to discuss with you. Even if she were to stop taking the pills today, she would likely continue to experience hip development. Additionally, if she were to start taking male hormones, there are doubts about her ability to regain the capacity for excitement or to develop as a typical boy. While her chest development might decrease slightly, she would still have noticeable chest, and her hips would remain the same size. Due to the timing of when she began hormone therapy, her voice is unlikely to change. Her male puberty was interrupted, and when she started female puberty, her voice ceased to change. All things considered, it's probably best to adjust her hormone dosage to better suit her and allow her to continue living and dressing as a female." My mother gasped and sank into a chair as I sat quietly, absorbing the information. "She'll need some electrolysis to remove any remaining facial hair, but I'm confident that within a few months, she'll blend in just like any other girl her age." Silently, Mom observed as Dr. Evelyn wrote out a prescription for me and provided her with the name of a specialist for beard removal. Mom accepted the prescription, and we departed. It seems I was correct. Now, all that's left is to inform your Uncle Maximum. After driving for a while, Mom stopped the car. "You'll need to finish the school term as Nicholas, of course. Then, we'll have the whole summer for your transition to Kathy. In the meantime, we'll need to get you some clothes to wear, so let's shop for bras, skirts, and maybe a dress." Without a word, we headed to the mall, where I received a crash course in clothes shopping. Mom seemed like any typical mother, and I suppose buying girls' clothes for me wasn't too much of a stretch for her. Naturally, I leaned towards shorter styles, mirroring what many girls at school wore. However, Mom insisted on more modest hemlines, resulting in skirts and a dress that fell just above my knees. In the lingerie section, Mom borrowed a tape measure and guided me through bra fitting. Ultimately, we settled on 3 bras, a plain white one, a peach one with lace trim, and a seamless white one trimmed in pale blue lace. I also stocked up on a dozen pairs of plain white cotton panties. Since I only owned 1 pair of shoes, we bought a pair of flats and a nicer pair of black patent leather heels. Once back home, I hung everything in the closet or stowed it away before Mom and I shared a light lunch. Do you realize how difficult this is going to be? For you, and for us. I can't believe you've done this. Mom's frustration and hurt were evident, and all I could offer was that this was what I wanted. Yet, as I tried to explain, I sensed she didn't truly understand. Do you think being a female is all fun and games? It's not just about wearing different clothes. We handle cooking, cleaning, childbirth, and then raising children. People judge you based on your homemaking skills, appearance, and on top of all that, you have to consider your husband's preferences, let him make decisions, and often go along with them. Mom's words hung heavy in the air, and I remained silent, sensing she had more to say. When you return to school as a girl, if the kids find out, you'll likely face teasing, harassment, and maybe even physical harm. Some won't care, some will ignore you, and some may want to harm you. Boys may not want to associate with you because they want to date a real girl, while girls might see you as competition and exclude you. And that's just the beginning. She took a sip of her drink, her eyes fixed on me. And what about the rest of the family? Your grandparents might try to understand, but what about your cousin Fred? You know he's involved in that skinhead stuff. Mom squeezed my hand and wiped away a tear that had trickled down my cheek. Regardless of what happens, Kathy, remember that we love you and will do our best to protect you. But your Uncle Max is going to struggle with this, so be patient and try not to let his words affect you too much. Why can't I just bind my chest and carry on as I am? I've been doing it for over a month now, and nobody has found out yet. I understand, but how do we justify having you present as a girl on weekends and a boy during the week? Maintaining two separate wardrobes would be incredibly confusing, and both your Uncle Max and I would prefer consistency rather than switching back and forth. It would be challenging for all of us. Furthermore, what if someone were to unexpectedly visit on the weekends while you were dressed as Kathy? The truth would inevitably come out. No, I believe that starting immediately after school ends, you will transition to being Kathy full-time. Come fall, we'll have to navigate any challenges that arise because we simply can't afford to send you to a private school. She made her stance abundantly clear, so clear that I found myself questioning why I started taking the pills in the first place. But deep down, I knew that embracing my identity as a girl was the right path for me. I assured her that I would do my utmost best. Over the following months, Mom dedicated an hour each day to teach me various hairstyling techniques, makeup application, proper posture, and gestures. It was a tedious, sometimes monotonous, and occasionally amusing process, but I understood its necessity if I wanted to stand a chance come fall. Uncle Max did engage in conversations with me, albeit with a certain distance, his occasional glimpses of anger not escaping my notice. On the third weekend, I meticulously dressed in my most feminine attire. I felt compelled to confide in Uncle Max about my feelings, knowing that he would only accept me if I presented myself as convincingly female. I didn't inform Mom of my plan. With minimal makeup, a full pleated skirt, a blouse, short heels, pink lipstick, and a hint of perfume, I entered his den and closed the door. "Uncle Max, we need to talk." He leaned back, studying me intently, his eyes searching for traces of the boy I once was. When he remained silent, I spoke up. "You think this decision was made lightly? Mom was right about the challenges I would face: ridicule, hostility, maybe even physical harm, and yet, here I am, dressed as I am. This transition is just as difficult for me as it is for you, perhaps even more so. I'm the one who has to endure the taunts while simultaneously learning to embody femininity like Mom. I realize what I did was reckless, but I felt compelled to take those pills. If not now, then when? How much harder would it be later? Uncle Max, I love you, but all I ask is that you try to understand, even if just a little." He remained seated, his gaze fixed on me as I stood up, ready to leave. "Catherine." His sudden call made me pause, and I turned as he straightened in his chair. "I didn't give you permission to leave. Please, sit down." It struck me that this was the first time he had addressed me as Catherine. "You're absolutely correct in saying that I don't understand why you did this or felt the need to. But you're my sister's child, my favorite, and I won't let anyone harm you if I can prevent it. However, taking those hormone pills was foolish and dangerous, and you know it. I thought the three of us had an agreement, Kathy. No matter what, we could share our concerns and discuss them openly. That's what troubles me the most, Kathy. You didn't trust us to help you make sense of your feelings. I love you, and I can even come to terms with having a niece now. But what I cannot and will not tolerate is deceit. His words were filled with anger and hurt, and I knew I was the cause of it all. Uncle Max, can we start afresh? As Uncle Max and niece. As his arms reached out for me, I rushed into his embrace, clinging to him tightly as tears dampened his shirt. We're going out for dinner tonight, Kathy. You better freshen up and change, he instructed gently. I hurried to my room and swiftly undressed before stepping into the shower. As the water cascaded over me, I scrubbed vigorously, leaving my hair squeaky clean and my skin glowing. After drying off, I applied scented body powder and slipped into a pair of panties, carefully tucking myself before donning the panty brief. Mastering the art of hairstyling, I quickly set my hair in rollers before applying makeup, opting for soft, muted shades on my eyes and a deep black eyeliner to accentuate their openness. Next, I slipped into a peach-colored bra and pantyhose, retrieving the pleated tan skirt and pink and white blouse from the closet. Ensuring the skirt sat high on my waist to reveal more of my legs, I completed the ensemble with pink heels, a purse, and pink and gold jewelry. After removing the rollers and brushing out my hair, I adorned it with pink and gold barrette to frame my face. With a swipe of soft red lipstick and a spritz of perfume, I felt ready and returned to Uncle Max's office. Mom was already there, elegantly dressed, while Uncle Max sported a suit. Their gazes fell upon me, and I suddenly felt like an outsider. You look lovely, Kathy. Planning to catch a boy? Uncle Max's eyes twinkled with humor as he posed the question. In jest, I replied, why not? Don't I look pretty enough? Of course you do. But be careful what you wish for, you might just get it, he cautioned with a smile. Afterward, Uncle Max drove us to his club, a surprise turn of events for me. Being an only child, everyone at the club was aware of this, so upon seeing me, a girl, with them, the natural assumption was that I was Nicholas, my mother's son. I hadn't been consulted about this decision, leaving me with no choice but to follow them inside, take my seat at the table, and endeavor to present myself as feminine as possible. Twice during dinner, Uncle Max was questioned, and each time, he introduced me as his niece, Catherine. I overheard murmurs of confusion, but I thought you had a nephew, before the individuals walked away. As the evening progressed, the band struck up a tune, and while Mom and Uncle Max took to the dance floor, I felt a hand on my elbow. Excuse me, would you care to dance? I turned to find Mason Wilson, a friend from school whom I'd known for years. Surely, he must recognize me. I would love to, thank you, I replied, allowing him to lead me to the dance floor. As he held me close, I caught a whiff of his aftershave. You look lovely. My name's Mason Wilson. What's yours? Kathy Anderson, I answered. Kathy Anderson, are you related to Nate? Recalling Mom's advice about honesty in such situations, I decided to come clean. In a way, Mason. I used to be Nate. Now, I'm Kathy. You definitely look and smell like a girl, is that right? Michael, would someone who isn't a girl look like this? No, I suppose not. Mason, we've been friends for a long time. Can you accept me as a girl now? Sure, why not? You look better than some of the girls at school, and we already know a lot about each other. His embrace tightened around my waist, signaling his acceptance. Later, as we were preparing to leave, Mason approached our table and asked if he could call me the next day. I smiled and agreed. It seems Kathy has an admirer, Grace. Perhaps it's time for that mother-daughter talk, Uncle Max remarked. It's just a phone call, Uncle Maximum, relax. I retorted. His skeptical snort suggested he wasn't convinced. That night, lying in bed, I pondered why Mason wanted to call me when there were plenty of real girls available to him. Tall, good-looking, well-mannered, and well-dressed, he was the object of many girls' desires, yet he wanted to call me. The next morning, I dressed casually in cut-off shorts, a t-shirt, and tennis shoes. Thanks to the estrogen, I now had a distinctly feminine figure, even after tucking myself. Uncle Max glanced at me and snorted, reminding me that I'd need to change if Mason came over. I don't want him to get the wrong idea about you, Kathy. If he comes over, you'll wear a skirt and blouse or jeans and a blouse, but not that, it's indecent, Uncle Max asserted. Mom echoed similar sentiments, but I decided to wait for Mason's call before taking any action. Around 1 o'clock, Mason phoned and asked if he could come over. I agreed, then dashed to my room to change. Instead of opting for a skirt or jeans, I chose one of the dresses I had purchased. It was a sheath style but flared at the waist, with a mid-thigh hem, a square neckline, and 2 straps to hold it up. After slipping into black flats and applying lipstick and perfume, I finished just as Mason rang the doorbell. Upon seeing me, Uncle Max seemed momentarily taken aback, perhaps by the slight exposure of charms at the top of the dress, but Mason simply stared until I took his hand, and we grabbed some sodas on our way to the patio. "I suppose it's true, you're Nate," Mason exclaimed. "No, Mason, it's Kathy from now on. I'll be going to school in the fall as Kathy, and it would be comforting to know I have someone I can rely on." He regarded me with a puzzled expression, prompting me to inquire, "Is something wrong?" "No, but I'm just wondering why I never knew about your desire to be a girl, especially after all these years of knowing each other since we started school. If it were you, would you tell anybody?" I countered. "I suppose not, but why now?" That was a very good question, one I had even wondered about myself. I don't think I could have stood it any more, Mason. I wanted to be a girl, and started taking some of Mom's estrogen to see what would happen, and all at once I had a body like a girl. I saw our doctor and he told me I might as well become a girl because there was no way I could become a boy again. Since then, I have been dressing as a girl on the weekends. As soon as school lets out, I'll become Kathy all of the time from then on. His eyes never left my face except when they drifted to my obvious charms. "The junior prom is in 2 weeks. Would you like to go?" Before I could answer him, he added, "If you're going to school as Kathy in the fall anyway, why not go to the dance and finish the year as Kathy?" "I'd like that, Mason. Yes, I'll go to the dance with you." He held my hand for a minute, and then asked me to walk down to the drugstore with him. "I have to get some razor blades before I go home. Want to come?" I did, and on the way out I yelled at Uncle Max that we were walking to the store. I was back within the hour, and then I told Mom and Uncle Max that Mason had asked me to the prom, and what he said about finishing school as Kathy. "A date? Already?" "Yes, Uncle Max, a date, but to the junior prom." "How can you be sure this isn't just a ploy for him to embarrass you in front of the whole school?" "Because I've known Mason for as long as I can remember, and that's not his style. Besides, I could see sincerity in his eyes." I turned and headed to my room to avoid escalating the situation. Uncle Max had become increasingly protective of me, especially after our recent conversation. Mom and I went shopping for the perfect prom dress. Despite my preference for something sleek, slinky, and revealing, Mom insisted on a more traditional style. Before we began our search for a dress, however, she also insisted that I get fitted for a corset. According to her, you might as well get accustomed to the effort we go through to fit into the smallest dress size possible. Plus, you'll want to look as feminine as can be. As much as I knew she was right, I had no idea just how a corset worked until I had one on. My waist felt as if it had been cut in two as it pulled my waist down to 21 inches. My chest, however, had been pushed up and strained against the cups of the bra, threatening to jump out at any moment, and my hips were now perfect for my new shape. I expected to be able to take it off, but Mom told me to leave it on so that the dress could be fitted correctly. I could walk, talk, and move my arms, but bending was almost out of the question now, and my breathing was a bit labored. Mom, however, told me I would get used to it after a few days, and simply walked into the dress shop. In the end, the dress we bought was a shimmering green satin over 3 layers of crinoline petticoats. The top was a sweetheart style with a single strap that went around my neck with the hem just above my knees. The shoes were coated in silver sequins and my jewelry was white rhinestone earrings with a green stone in the middle set in silver. The necklace was a small pendant with a matching stone. How about some very special panties to go with the dress, Kathy? Great, I said, picking them out myself, Mom saying nothing when she saw them. High cut on the sides with barely enough material to cover half of my butt and a small triangle in front, they were made of green satin to match the dress. I was in heaven and wanted to try on the whole outfit as soon as we got home, so Mom helped me get dressed and then I walked in on Uncle Maximum. He stood up like he had been poked, and stared at me. "No one will mistake you for a boy, Kathy. You look stunning," Mom exclaimed with a smile as I returned to my room, where she assisted me in undressing, except for the corselet. "You should wear it as much as possible, Kathy, to break it in. Otherwise, you might be uncomfortable at the dance and not enjoy yourself," Mom advised. I wore the corselet for the next 2 days, only removing it when necessary to go back to school. However, I wore it to bed each night and took it off each morning. During my usual appointment with the doctor on Saturday, I broached the topic with him in private, asking if there was a way to make my appearance more feminine. Below. We have a procedure typically used for patients with significant injuries in that area. With some minor adjustments, I believe we can achieve a very feminine look for you, he explained. He consulted my mother, and after his explanation and my earnest plea, she consented. The procedure took 2 hours, but when I returned home, I was amazed to find a natural-looking female organ. Within 2 days, the stitches dissolved, leaving no visible signs of surgery thanks to the surgical adhesive predominantly used. No matter how many times I touched it, I was always astonished by the sensation of the new me. On the day of the prom, Mason informed me he would arrive at 7. That very day, I had my first appointment at a beauty salon. While I recognized most of the girls there, none of them gave me a second glance, and none seemed to recognize me. My brown hair was dyed auburn and styled in a Gibson with sausage curls cascading down the back and sides. My nails were meticulously manicured and painted a soft red. By the time I left the salon, I was confident that I would look fabulous that night. I luxuriated in a bubble bath before beginning to dress, starting with those exquisite satin panties. Now that there was no hindrance, they fit me perfectly. Next came the pantyhose and my makeup routine. Mom entered and assisted me with the corselet, which now slid on easily as my waist had slightly slimmed due to the constant pressure. Once laced in, I fluffed up my chest and slipped the dress over my head, allowing Mom to zip it up. Then came the jewelry, perfume, and shoes, and finally, the red lipstick. If the dress had been any longer, I could have stepped right out of Gone with the Wind. My mind buzzed with excitement as I grabbed the small silver purse and descended the stairs. Mason and Uncle Max awaited me, as Mom had ensured they would be. "A woman must make a grand entrance, dear, and now is the perfect moment," Mom remarked. Both of them wore broad smiles as I descended the stairs. Every fiber of my being exuded femininity, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was every bit as much a woman as any girl at school. Entering the dance was a tad nerve-wracking, but Mason confidently presented his card to the chaperone, who then announced us. Michael Frederick Wilson and Catherine Michelle Anderson. I hadn't disclosed my middle name, as I hadn't chosen one, which meant either Uncle Max or Mom had informed him. As we made our way to our table, I was introduced to the others, despite being acquainted with all of them. Kayla, a pretty girl with raven hair, remarked that I looked familiar. I glanced at Mason, and he subtly nodded his head, then squeezed my hand. "I should, Kayla. After all, we've known each other for years." Once again, she glanced at me, as did the others, but none of them seemed to make the connection, perhaps due to my noticeable cleavage, which was undeniably authentic. I used to be Nicholas Anderson. As you can see, there have been a few alterations in my life. But those are genuine. It's all me, Kayla. And now, I am just as much a woman as you are. I have to see that. Then let's go, I replied. In the ladies' room I pulled up my dress and down went my panties. There was no doubt now, and all of the girls wanted to know all of the details, which of course they did not get. Suffice it to say that Mason and I dated for some time, broke up, and now we are back together. When classes resumed the following Monday, I was accepted because the word had spread that I was now a female. I had a few taunts, but most of the kids accepted me and I went on to graduate, and then went to nursing school. As it happens, I counsel teenagers that are transgendered. What more could a girl want?